Eric was reaching for the towel when he saw it. Something in the mirror, darting out of his line of vision. He stared at the mirror for a while, trying to work out what he'd seen, letting the water drip off of him into the empty shower. There was nothing but his own reflection. He began to dry himself, and he saw it again, flickering out of the corner of his eye, something in the mirror. He stepped out of the shower and towards the mirror. Eric's wife, Sue, arrived home later that evening, but her husband was nowhere to be found. After searching the entire house, all she could find to suggest he'd ever been there was the towel lying on the bathroom floor. She phoned the police. She didn't look at the mirror. 2 days after Eric was reported missing, Sue disappeared off the face of the earth. The only clue to suggest she'd ever been home was the shower, still running long after she'd gone. One evening, a woman came home late from work. She put her handbag down on the kitchen table and started rooting through it. Then she realized she didn't have her cell phone with her. She couldn't remember the last time she had saw it. I must have lost it on the way home, she thought to herself. She went into the hallway, picked up her home phone, and dialed the number of her cell. The phone rang for a long time, and then someone picked up, but they didn't say anything. "Hello?" said the woman. There was no answer, but she could hear someone breathing on the other end. "Hello, can you hear me?" she said. There was still no answer, but the breathing got heavier. "Hello, can you hear me?" the woman asked again. Then, in a low voice, the person on the other end said, "I hear you." Then they hung up. After that, the woman kept calling her cell, but nobody picked up. Eventually, she gave up in frustration. It was late, so she decided to go to bed. When she went upstairs to her room, she was shocked to see her phone sitting on the nightstand. It was on silent. A few years ago, in a small town in Spain, there was a married couple who had a 6-year-old boy. There was an old television in their son's bedroom, and every night when he went to bed, he would insist on covering it with a blanket. His parents noticed his odd behavior, and one day, out of curiosity, they asked him, "Son, why do you always cover the TV at night?" The boy gave in and gave them both a strange look and replied, "Because that's how they get in." His parents were confused and just dismissed it as childish superstition. One night, they went out to the theater and hired a babysitter to take care of the boy while they were away. After the play finished, the parents went to a bar for a drink and then returned home around midnight. To their surprise, they found the babysitter collapsed at the bottom of the stairs, crying hysterically. When they asked her what had happened, she looked up at them with terror in her eyes and said, "They took him away." The parents ran upstairs, and when they got to the boy's bedroom, they were horrified. Their son was nowhere to be found, and there was a trail of blood leading to the television. Have you ever been taking a shower while alone in the house and it felt like something was moving around behind the curtain? Or watching you? Did you look up? Did you catch the very vaguest hint of eyebrows or a tuft of matted greasy hair above the curtain rod? That's not a good idea. It doesn't really like it if you see it. It likes it the most when you've got shampoo on your hair and your eyes are shut tight so your eyes don't sting. Or even better when there's soap and bubbles all over your soft pink face. It likes that the best because your eyes are clenched so tight, and even if you did want to open them, like if you heard a soft scratching against the plastic shower curtain, or a rasping of claws on the bathroom tile, or even the gentle splatter of drool, or God knows what, well, you wouldn't open your eyes because it'd burn, right? Right. Don't open your eyes, because if you ever see its face catch its eyes, well, it'll notice. When I was 6 years old, we lived in the center of the set of 3 very similar houses. I remember ours was purple, the one to the left was blue, and the one to the right was yellow. I recently had bought one of those big inflatable bouncy balls from Walmart and had no one to play with me, so I played with it in the backyard by myself. After school one day, I accidentally hit the ball to the yellow house's side of the fence. I was going to ask my mom what to do about it, but a kid on the other side hit it back over for me. Thinking we could play, I hit it back over and he returned it. It became a daily thing, and I would just hit the ball back and forth with him until I got bored after school. The kid wouldn't respond to any questions I had, so I assumed he was just shy. At one point, I hit the ball over and he didn't return it. So I asked my mom if I can climb the fence to go get it. She was never outside with me, so she always thought I was playing alone, I guess. We only got the house because my mom was friends with the landlord, and the houses were recently built. She told me that no one had ever lived there, and they were still trying to sell it. We moved not long after, but I still have no idea who was returning that ball to me. It's the summer and you're out of college classes for at least a week or two before the next semester starts. You spent this time lounging around and sleeping a lot, but lately, correspondence between your local friends has dropped off. They don't drop by. Your phone's been quiet for a while, and your instant message lists are empty. After 5 days of this, you've gotten bored enough to try chat rooms. They're all empty, even the big ones. Any emails you send get no replies. When you leave your apartment, the whole of the building is unearthly silent. The only noise that comes about at all is the whirl from the automated rail outside. Nobody answers when you knock. All the buildings are dark and locked up. When you look out the window, the only cars are of the parked variety. A search of the entire building and even further beyond that yields nothing. No life. The only movement is from the wind or the automated pieces of machinery. Defeated, you slink back into the empty apartment complex. On your door is pinned a note. Turns out the guy in room 302 really could sleep through the end of the world. The note is dated 5 days ago. I am falling. I have been falling for, I don't even know anymore. A few million years? It doesn't even matter. Time is meaningless. There's really not much of a story to tell. I was just sitting at home. There was a pain in my chest and I was falling. At first, I just started screaming and waited for my skull to shatter on the ground. Didn't happen. It was a few days later when I finally realized this might not be ending anytime soon. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything right. I didn't do anything. And yet I am falling. I can see nothing but the empty blackness of whatever I am falling down. I can hear nothing but the air whizzing past my ears. I can smell nothing except my decaying and withered body. I can feel my skin fractured and broken, some part of me worn away into nothingness by the fall. I've gotten used to the pain. It's more interesting than the eternity of nothing, I suppose. Screaming? I gave that up after a century or two. No point. Not that there's much else to do. Maybe I'll die one day. Whatever awaits me there has to be better than this. Really, the only thing that actually scares me at this point is that I'm already dead. I used to live in a small building downtown. One of the reasons I moved out was the bad neighborhood, including this guy in the apartment right over mine. He was a weird-looking fellow who mostly kept to himself. Around midnight, though, there was frequently a strange noise that got on my nerves. It wasn't loud, to be fair, but I have really light sleep, so it was hard to get my eyes to shut with those little bumping sounds going on and on. It reminded me of high heels walking about, but not as loud, as if the person causing the noise was actually trying to be silent. After a few days, I realized the pattern was always the same, like a recording played over and over with random intervals between. And that went on for the best part of a year. Always the same sequence of bumps, slowly tattooed into my mind, sometimes for hours straight during the night. It was only several years later, helping my daughter with her homework, that I learnt a little bit of Morse code. She knocked on the table with her knuckles, and a shiver immediately went through my spine as I recognized that exact pattern. When I asked her what it meant, she laughed. "It's the easiest one, Daddy," she said. "It's the one to call for help."
"Have you seen my son?" the frantic mother asked. The old man who lived next door shook his head. The mother knocked on every door on the street. "Have you seen my son?" she asked over and over. None of her neighbors had seen the boy. No one knew where he was. The mother went to the police station and asked the officer behind the desk, "Have you seen my son?" The police organized a search for the missing boy. They got a recent photo of him from his mother and circulated it. They made announcements on the television and radio, asking for information. They searched houses, poked through alleys, combed fields, and dredged rivers, but there was no sign of the child. Every morning the mother left her house and put up posters all over town. Each one had a picture of a little boy on it, and the caption below read, "Have you seen my son?" Once a week, the mother would go down to the police station and ask the officer at the desk, "Have you seen my son?" Each time the officer would sigh, shake his head sadly, and say, "I'm sorry, ma'am, not yet." Each time the mother walked home with a smile on her face. They would never find her son. She had hidden his body well. Don't dismiss this outright as the work of some raving lunatic. There's some sense to this story, if you'll just hear me out. Look, we all wonder if time travel is possible, right? Well, let me tell you something. It is. I'm from the future, actually. I know you probably don't believe that, but seriously, I'm from the future. It's a really great thing, getting to see the past, watching events unfold, stuff like that. We know more now than we ever would. Behind all the fun, though, there's a more serious aspect. We aren't supposed to go out in our own lifetime, and we are never allowed to contact our past selves. Let me tell you, I'm breaking that rule right now. Yes, kid, you're talking to yourself, your future self. I'm going to be executed for this, but you know what? I accept that. I'm preventing something by talking to you that is worse than death. I can tell you outright what to do, because the filters would catch it. So really, I can't tell you what to do. This is the closest I can get. Trust me. I can, however, send a little message. You should probably read the first word of every paragraph now. Don't look behind you. Have you ever walked into a room and found a vampire? No, not the sexy kind, but a foul creature with bony limbs and ashen skin? The kind that snarls as you enter like a beast about to pounce? The kind that roots you to the spot with its sunken, hypnotic eyes, rendering you unable to flee as you watch the hideous thing uncoil from the shadows? Has your heart started racing though your legs refuse to? Have you ever felt time slow as the creature crosses the room in the darkness of a blink? Have you shuddered with fear when it places one clawed hand atop your head and another under your chin so it can tilt you, exposing your neck? Have you squirmed as its rough, dry tongue slides down your cheek, over your jaw to your throat in a slithering search that's seeking your artery? Have you felt its hot breath release in a hiss against your skin when it probes your pulse? The flow that leads to your brain? Has its tongue rested there, throbbing slightly as if savoring the moment? Have you then experienced a sinking, sucking blackness as you discovered that not all vampires feed on blood? Some feed on memories. Well, have you? Maybe not, but let me rephrase the question. Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly forgotten why you came in? Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. But I've been just plain creepy, and I'll catch you in the next video.